Hey Canucks fans, can Jacob Markstrom and the entire team sustain this high level of play for the second half of the season? I'm Clay Emo. I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter. I'm at Clay Emo on Instagram. I'm the founder of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club, and this is my Canucks take, all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Monday, January the 6th. Right off the bat, give a shout out, a special birthday shout out to one of my loyal subscribers, loyal viewers, Amber. Amber, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to watch these videos. I have it on good authority that you do watch these every day, so thank you, and may God bless you and with health and happiness going forward. So once again, happy birthday, Amber. All right, the Canucks are ready to take on another team riding a 7-game win streak, and that's the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that's tomorrow night in Tampa. Canucks practice today in Tampa, and as no surprise, no change to the lineup, at least in practice. So the same 18 skaters. You have the Lotto line of Pettersson, Besser, Miller. You have Horvat with Pearson and Eriksson. Third line of Gaudette, Virtanen, and Roussel. And their fourth line of Beagle, Schaller, and Mott. D pairings of Edler, Stetcher, Hughes, Tanev, Fantenberg, Myers, Jacob Markstrom, and Thatcher Demko. Tending the nets, of course. Jacob Markstrom was out before practice getting some work in, so it's a good sign. It means that he wants to stay sharp. Also means I think he's going to be starting tomorrow night against Tampa, but we'll know tomorrow. And that means that Zach McEwen and Jordy Ben were the extras. That means Sutter's still not with the team, still hurt. Ferland still not with the team. He's hurt as well. And I had a really good session last night on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who joined us for that live stream. Man, an hour goes by really quickly, especially in the last 15 minutes is with my son Jacob. That was a lot of fun last night. But we spent some time talking about this whole Fantenberg Ben situation. So Jordy Ben, I don't think he's going to get in until either Fantenberg or Stetcher or someone really falters, or the Canucks lose one or two. But how can you tinker with the lineup when the Canucks are riding a 7-game win streak? And it's kind of interesting. I want to lead in this topic, and we'll preview the game more tomorrow, the game against Tampa. But despite the 7-game win streak, you might feel like the Canucks haven't made that much ground in the standings. And it's true because both Vegas and Arizona are still ahead, although the Canucks have 3 games in hand on Vegas, which is good, 4 points behind them. And they have 2 games behind on Arizona and 2 points behind them. So 4 games for 3 points, 2 games for 2 points. So the Canucks are in a really good position. But I think we'd have to expect that. The leader of the Pacific Division was so weak compared to the points of the other division leaders. You have Boston ripping it up in the Atlantic Division. Then you have Washington leading the Metro, and then you have St. Louis leading the Central. And those teams all had 5-10 points more than whoever the Pacific Division leader was. So it makes sense that, yeah, as much as you want it, you think the Canucks should be number one, given winning a 7-game win streak. We know that Vegas and Arizona keep winning as well. But the Canucks are winning, and that's the important thing. They're setting themselves up for a really good second half of the season. So I really have 2 questions today I want to ask you as we look ahead to the second half of the season. And then I want you to comment anytime. You don't have to wait till I finish answering them myself. I would love your comments. Number one is, I open with this. Can Jacob Markstrom and the entire team sustain this level of play? Is it sustainable? And number 2, do the Canucks need to tinker with their lineup? What do you think the mix of the players so far? So let's talk about each of those 2 questions. Number 1, we know that Jacob Markstrom is being the MVP of our season. He got named to the All-Star game on Friday, and a very deserved honor. And we know that the Canucks have been outshot and outplayed in not all the games, but in many games. You think of the LA Kings game, you even think of the recent win against the Rangers. But it's not all the time. I'd say the Canucks held play, at least equal or dominant play against Chicago, and against Edmonton and Calgary, they were fine as well. So it's hit and miss for sure, but I think it's fair to say that Jacob Markstrom has certainly stolen some points for them in some of the games so far. So he's the number one reason, I think, him and Pettersson and power play and Quinn Hughes. But really, you could argue Jacob Markstrom is the number one reason why we are in the position we are right now. So my question to you, Canucks fan, is his play sustainable, and is the Canucks' overall play sustainable? Or are we bound for a drop-off, either in his play, and therefore the Canucks will then drop off a little bit as well? My gut feeling is Jacob Markstrom seems really dialed in, and unless he suffers an unfortunate injury, I think this is the real Jacob Markstrom. Yeah, it took him a few years to get here, but he's 29 years old. Now we started to see the really rapid rise and development in his game last year, and it's continued this season. And it's making that trade way back in the day for Roberto Luongo for Markstrom. I know there are other pieces there, but it's looking really, really good right now. So I do think that Jacob Markstrom's play is sustainable. Now, Thatcher Demko needs to spell him off a few times. Markstrom had to go for a couple weeks in a row there when Demko was out with a concussion. But if Demko could come in and give him quality backup minutes and win some games as well, then I do think that the Canucks can sustain their level of play. So not just Jacob Markstrom, but it's everything. It's the health of the blue line is going to be very important, although we have Jordy Ben waiting in the wings. I think the power play shows no signs of slowing down, especially when you have two units that can score on any given night. And that second unit has been such an added bonus, right? With that unit with Pearson and Vertanen and Gaudette and Myers and Roussel, whoever that fifth person is. So I do think the Canucks play is sustainable because I think Jacob Markstrom is for real. I think they get good backup goaltending. I think the D can continue to play well. The power play can continue to click. And up front, you have some really, really good options. Some people are fretting about Brock Boeser on pace for only 25, 26 goals. But you got to remember, he's playing with two guys who can also score. Ian Pettersson and JT Miller, a player that we did not have last year. So I don't worry so much about Boeser. He has 39 points in 42 games or whatever it is. So he's pretty close to a point per game, just like JT Miller is as well. So we have three almost point per game players in Pettersson, Miller, and Boeser, which is exciting to see. So overall, yeah, I like the Canucks to kind of give Jacob Markstrom some more run support sometimes. And you don't wish a 50 save performance on your goaltender all the time, because that's simply going to tire him out or burn him out. But right now, I do think the Canucks play sustainable. And you might say, well, Clay, it's sustainable because they're playing quite poorly sometimes, and Markstrom's bailing them out. I do think that as the games get tighter, the Canucks will have to dig deeper. But I am confident. Maybe I'm an optimist, too much of an optimist, but I'm confident that they can sustain this level of play. They're not going to win 7 straight all the time, but they've now worked themselves in a position where teams have to catch them, and that's a great place to be. So for all those reasons, I do think their play is sustainable. And I think Jacob Markstrom, as long as he gets proper rest, proper skills work, proper reset time, I think he will be fine until the end of the season. So Markstrom, Demko, D, power play, secondary scoring, all those things, big reasons why the Canucks are where they are. Which leads me to my second question. Do you like the Canucks mix right now? And do you think they need to tinker with their lineup if they are going to push to hold that playoff spot near the end of the season? And this came up in my live stream last night as well. Talk about trading Jake Virtanen. No, I don't think you trade him. And I made the point that, yeah, Jake is finally reaching where we want him to be, but markets often tend to overvalue their own players. So we might think number one, I wouldn't want to trade Jake Virtanen, but even if we entertained it, we might set the market or think he deserves this, but other teams might be saying, well, it's taken him 5 years to get here. I want to see if this is more than a fluke season. So again, my whole point is you always overvalue your own players more than the rest of the league would. But I 0% want to trade Jake Virtanen, but that did come up yesterday. But more importantly, what came up was, are the Canucks going to trade for a top 6 forward? And if so, what would they give up? I don't want them to tinker. I'd say as good as they're doing this year, I think they're even going to be better next year when hopefully Ferland's healthy, when JT Miller is in his second year with the team, when Pettersson and Hughes have another year under their belt. I really think that the Canucks are going to be better even next year than they are this year. So I don't want them to trade draft picks or prospects for a guy who might add a couple goals at the end of the season. Usually you trade for a UFA and it becomes a rental, but I think some of the UFAs are going to be, there's going to be a really steep asking price. That's the way it goes, right? So I'd rather the Canucks stay the course and not tinker with their lineup, with their mix. And their mix, and this is what I want to end it with, I think it's a really good mix. I think it's a good mix of youth, middle, and veterans. And, with the Petterssons and Boesers and Hughes and Virtanens of the world and Demko, you need guys that are in the mid to late 20s, guys like Jacob Markstrom and Tanner Pearson, who you'd say aren't super old yet, but they're becoming veterans, or they've been in the league at least a few years. And then you have the guys that are over 30, and those guys provide leadership. Obviously, the guys like Edler and Eriksson and Sutter and whoever it may be. Actually, I'm not sure how old Sutter is. I should know my ages better than the Canucks. I just don't follow that quickly. But you look at the last 2 seasons, and I know there's a lot of fret when Jim Benning signed Roussel, Beagle, and Schaller on July 1st. And then this season, you brought in guys like Myers, Ben, Fantenberg, and then also JT Miller, Michael Ferland, and then Tanner Pearson and Josh Levo with midseason trades last season. So you can see what Jim Benning is trying to do. He knows that you can't just go with a core 4 of Hughes, Horvat, Pettersson, and Boeser. That's too young. You need to surround them with players that have won. Jay Beagle has won a Stanley Cup. Tanner Pearson has won a Stanley Cup. And then the other guys that they brought in, the guys like Myers and Ben and Roussel, and especially, they've been around the league for a while. And I think that we can't underestimate the impact they have as leaders, both on and off the ice, in the locker room, teaching these young players how to be pros. Because you try to have too young of a team, they might be fun and exciting to watch, but I think in the long run, you're doing a disservice if you're not surrounding them with veterans. So I really like the Canucks mix. I think it's a good mix at every position, right? On goaltender, you have the 29-year-old Jacob Markstrom, and then the 23 or 24-year-old Thatcher Demko. Nice mix there. On the blue line, you have a young guy like Quinn Hughes, and you say Troy Setcher is still quite young, and then Brogan Rafferty is coming up maybe, and Olli Juolevi and Jet Wu. Yet you have veterans right now like Edler, Tanev, and Myers that are on that blue line as well. And then you look at the forwards, and that's the most obvious, I think, with Pettersson and Besser and even Horvat and Virtanen, who are still considered relatively young. Gaudette. You have veterans now like Sutter, Beagle, Eriksson, Roussel, JT Miller, who's actually one of the older ones, or at least the middle of the pack. So I do like the Canucks mix, and I do not foresee them tinkering with it a lot. Especially when I think that next year, like I said, they have the potential to be even better than this year. So those are the two questions that I leave to you, Canucks fans. Number one, is the Canucks play sustainable for the second half of the season, i.e. will they finish in the playoff spot? And number two, do you like the Canucks mix? Are you confident in the Canucks mix of forwards, defensemen, and goaltenders? Basically, their mix of players overall. Leave a comment below. I love to hear your reaction on both of these points, and let's get some conversation going. Tomorrow, I will preview Vancouver and Tampa Bay. Like I said, a battle of the two hottest teams in the league. Something's got to give. Obviously, only one team can win tomorrow night. Hopefully, it's our team. But yes, facing a lineup, even without Kucherov, of guys like Point and Hedman and Vasilevsky and Stamkos, you know it's going to be a really, really good game tomorrow. So let me know what you think. But you can talk about tomorrow's game tomorrow. Today, let's talk about this. The two questions. Is the Canucks strong play sustainable? And do you like the mix of the team? Leave a comment below. I love to read, react, and reply, as always. Subscribe if you like to. Like this video if you like to. And Amber, once again, happy birthday and God bless you. God bless all of us. Go Canucks, go.